helmet and makes quarter-mile passes in less than 6 seconds. Dan Passerini, one of the favorites in the Pro Dragster category, as IHRA moves to Bristol, Tennessee for its third event of the season. Dan headlines IHRA's 4 pro divisions and the sportsman ranks who will rumble through Thunder Valley today. Tennessee, Bristol for IHRA drag racing. It's the Campbell Spring Nationals from Bristol Dragway. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins along with Larry Newber. This is the third IHRA drag meet of 1987. What do we look for today, Larry?
Bob, this could be a day and a weekend of chasing the favorites. All 4 of the pro classifications come in with clear-cut favorites, with perhaps the only exception being the pro funny cars. Bob Newberry is on a roll in the alcohol funny cars, or so it seems. In the pro stockers, Ricky Smith is the man of the hour, the man of the year. He has all of his Motocraft Thunderbird parts arranged in the right order. Now, the pro funny cars, we mentioned this, that the top 2 finishers in each of the 2 previous meets will not be in the finals today, and we've seen Dan Passerini will be headlining the pro dragster division.
Well, we've already seen some great speeds here this weekend in qualifying. For more on that, let's call in the third member of our broadcast team for today, Brett Kepner.
Easily the most picturesque drag strip in the nation, Bristol International Dragway is annually host to the Spring Nationals. This the 23rd year that this event has been held at this incredible drag strip winding through the Tennessee mountains. It is each year one of the fastest events, as we will find after qualifying produced a 267-mile-per-hour world record by Mike Dunn and Joe Paisano's funny car. It's also the host of some of the largest fields of IHRA competition. The sportsman machines, over 800 in number at this event, and more than 160 professional entries will make this the largest IHRA event so far in the 1987 season. We'll be covering action in, of course, the Pro Dragster, the Pro Nitro Funny Car, Pro Stock, and Pro Alcohol Funny Car categories today, here on ESPN's coverage of the 1987 IHRA Campbell Automotive Company's Spring Nationals.
Thank you, Brett. We look forward to your reports throughout the afternoon. And the Campbell Spring Nationals are being brought to you by Motorcraft. Quality parts for all makes of cars and trucks. They exceed the need. And by Drag Review, all you need to know about drag racing. Championship drag racing sanctioned by the nation's most progressive sanctioning body, the International Hot Rod Association. And we'll be back to begin our eliminations right after these messages. Drag racing, and we're set for quarterfinal competition in Pro Nitro Funny Cars. And we'll be watching, first of all, the Showtime Trans Am, driven by Tom Hoover from Maple Grove, Minnesota, against the Future Force Trans Am of Paul Smith from Boynton Beach, Florida.
All these funny car people, Bob, come into this meet with high hopes because the people who finished first and second in the 2 previous meets in the funny cars are not in the finals here at Bristol this weekend. So everybody thinks maybe this might be my day.
Hoover's in the far lane. He lost to Mark Oswald in the quarters at Rockingham and lost to Kenny Bernstein in the semis at Darlington. The green goes on. Here we go. Hoover with the lead, but it's going to be a close race. Hoover pulls it out.
Paul Smith, I think, cost himself that one, Bob. You never know. Was it driver error or something mechanical? There you see Hoover going 245 miles per hour, 5.8. But Smith got just a little bit out of control, but 100 feet off the line.
Now the Ambition Corvette against the Telstar Daytona. Daryl Amberson from Osseo, Minnesota against Doc Holliday from St. Paul, Minnesota. So a couple of gophers, golden gophers, shall we say, going in this run.
Yeah, and one of the first factors that you look at in any motor race is experience. And in this one, Holliday comes in with the upper hand in that area.
Doc Holliday, as the green light goes on, and Holliday with the advantage down. He's going to win this one rather easily over Daryl Amberson.
They both got off the line about the same. You can see Holliday, he turned in a 5.8. He actually had a slower reaction time, 26 hundredths of a second compared to 21 hundredths of a second, but Holliday outdrove him down the line.
The JP1 Special Olds Forenza. The pilot is Mike Dunn from Ontario, California, set to go now in our Nitro Funny Car quarterfinal competition. And yesterday, Mike Dunn went 267 in a qualifying run, and we're looking at a possible new national record if he can back that up today. Here's his 267 run.
Dunn cranking off this exciting 267 miles per hour. He bested a mark set last season by Don Perdone The old mark was 266, so Dunn is on the edge right now in that JPS Olds Fiorenza if he can come within 10% of that mark.
And here is Mike Dunn's opponent in this round is going to be Steve Hodkinson from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Now, Mike Dunn must back up that run yesterday of 267 within 1%. Both cars stay. Screen goes on. Let's see if Dunn can do it. He's off to a nice lead here in the near lane. Oh, and Hodkinson sideways there in the far lane. And Mike Dunn does it, and look at this.
270.27 miles per hour, Bob. A nitro funny car, an IHRA, breaks 270 miles an hour. Look at Dunn. He's just perfect off the line. Hodgkinson is fighting it. Now keep your eye on Hodgkinson. Dunn's going to get that mark. Look at Hodgkinson. He almost loses it.
The fastest ever in IHRA funny car history. Let's go to Brett Kepner, who is with the new record holder, Mike Dunn.
270 miles per hour, Mike. You're the first man ever to break the barrier in IHRA competition in a dragster or a funny car.
Well, that's awesome. Boy, I'll tell you, Joe Paisano, I got to give credit to him. Joe Paisano and crew chief Gary Slusher. The JP1 Oldsmobile has been running fast all year, and, we're still proving it.
Well, congratulations to Mike Dunn, and he certainly has to be a favorite to win this entire national meet here in Bristol. Mark Oswald now against Scott Kalita in the Bounty Hunter Forenza. Mark Oswald in the Motorcraft Thunderbird.
Bob, based on what we've seen so far in this meet, the winner of this matchup right here could well be Dunn's stiffest competition. I personally think that everybody has to beat Mark Oswald to win here this weekend, but Dunn is looking strong too.
Oswald is in the near lane. Oh, and Scott Kalita smokes the tires, and it's going to be a win for Mark Oswald. 5.80, a 252.80 mile-an-hour run.
Well, not much more can be added to that run. It was a couple of veterans squaring off against each other. Mark Oswald, of course, a former world champion. He came in probably with a bit of a psychological edge, and it was difficult to tell whether or not Kalita was in trouble right from the very start. You see him smoking the tires and moving out to about a 30-degree angle, and believe me, 30-degree angle is not the quickest way to get down the quarter mile.
So there are the winners in quarterfinal competition. Tom Hoover, Doc Holliday, Mike Dunn, and Mark Oswald. Those four go to the semifinals in Pro Nitro Funny Car competition.
I remember Dunn's got that 270 mile per hour mark, but that's not what wins races. It is ET.
Now we go to quarterfinal competition in the Nitro Dragster competition. It's going to be John Davison from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, against Michael Brotherton from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Brotherton's been having a great year. By the way, he's sitting in a nitro-burning dragster that has an engine in it bought from Darrell Gwynn. You know, the success that Gwynn has had this year. Could be a tough combination.
Matter of fact, Brotherton lost to Gwynn in the semis at Darlington, lost to Gwynn in the finals at Rockingham, and Brotherton is going to win this one easily.
Consistency, Bob. Brotherton got right with the program as soon as the light went green, and he stayed with it. Dan Pastorini, let's listen in.
Sounds good. Feels good. Looks good.
Radio communication between Dan Pastorini and his crew chief as Dan gets set to go in this quarterfinal round against Bob Strauss from Stone Mountain, Georgia. There's the former quarterback, though, from the National Football League, Dan Pastorini, and there is his opponent.
Pastorini, it is said, talks down the line. A lot of guys are concentrating so hard they won't, but let's see if we can pick up any communications from the cockpit and Dandy Don.
It's Dan Pastorini with an easy win over Bob Strauss.
254, you got it there. Come on, buddy.
What we run?
552, 254, you okay?
Fine. We smoke them about 3/4 track.
Start smoking them off the pad, just hazing them, but it's okay, it looks all right. It's close.
So there is a communication. Dan Pastorini being told he ran a 5:52, 254.85 miles an hour in his victory over Bob Strauss. Getting set to go now is the Snowman from Fort Worth, Texas, Gene Snow, and his opponent in the far lane is going to be Jerry Marconi, a former drag boat racer.
Snow comes into this meet, another man who thinks, oh, And Marconi smoked the tires very heavily, but Snow breaks at the line. Marconi looked like he was in deep, deep mud, but Snow has his problems right off of the Christmas tree. Look at this on the left is Snow.
Yeah, you almost gave up on Jerry Marconi when he smoked those tires coming off the line, but Gene Snow broke, and that sends Marconi to the semifinals.
Marconi might have been smoking tires, Bob, but he kept thrashing away. He stayed with it, didn't he?
It'll be Hank Indris against Connie Coletta in this next race.
And Coletta looks like that he is climbing out. Yep, the veteran Connie Coletta is climbing out of the machine as Indris, part of the two-car Kerry racing team, the diesel mechanic, and Indris wins this one as Connie Coletta, with a lot of jeers from the crowd. Bob is dismounting.
Well, he had an oil leak in that car and was ordered to shut it off by the starter. So there are the four that go to the semis in Pro Dragster: Rotherton, Pastorini, Marconi, and Indris. And we will continue with our coverage of the Campbell Spring Nationals from Bristol, Tennessee, right after these messages. IHRA drag racing and ready for quarterfinal competition now in pro alcohol funny cars. In this first round, it's going to be Arnie Karp driving the Boston Strangler. He's from Lyon, Massachusetts, and his opponent is going to be Bob Newberry, who won his first IHRA national event at Darlington earlier this year. He's in an Oldsmobile Forenza.
Newberry not only has been winning this year, but he's also been consistent. Karp really up against him. Oh, he's red-lighted.
Arnie Karp has red-lighted. Bob Newberry is going to get the win, although Karp leads him across the line first. It's Newberry with a 6:48, 2:18.97. Karp was a red light.
Listen to Newberry's reaction time. 1/1000th of a second. That's just about dead perfect.
Not bad. Bogey Kell in a Pontiac Trans Am against the Dodge Daytona of Tommy Johnson Jr., an 18-year-old, in the near lane. Johnson is looking strong.
He sure is, Bob.
He's got it.
Tommy Johnson Jr. turns in a 217-mile-an-hour run, but at 6.4 is good enough to work his way up one more rung on the ladder.
I like the name of this car, Bad Moon Rising. The driver is Chuck Phelps. His opponent is going to be Greg Moss, who lost to Newberry in the finals at Darlington.
Greg Moss was number 2 in world points last year in this division. Phelps is in the far lane, and Moss is in the near lane. Greg Moss has been tough in this division for the last 2 years.
Big job for Chuck Phelps. Let's see if he's up to the task this afternoon here at Bristol. Green light goes on.
They're off together. Phelps, he's bouncing, but he's holding his own.
Oh!
Phelps is still in it.
Close race. Chuck Phelps won it. Oh!
Something appeared to be a blower belt emanating from Phelps' car just as he crossed the line. Bob, he won this one, but it remains to be seen how big of a deficit he's going to be at. How costly was this win?
He ran a 2:08.81, a 6:49 in his defeat of Greg Moss.
A real good side-by-side contest in the last round of the quarter.
Terry Mullins against Richard Bell in this next round.
Oldsmobile, that's what Mullins has. Bell is in a Pontiac Trans Am.
Mullins in the far lane, Bell near lane.
And they too are matching wits down the strip. This could be anybody's drag race.
Near lane, Richard Bell has the win at a 2:11.26 mile an hour, a 5:43. Newberry, Johnson, Phelps, and Bell go to the semifinals, but again, Phelps with a problem at the very end of his run when he beat Greg Moss, and it remains to be seen whether or not he'll be able to get that car fixed in time. Pro Stock Division now. We go first of all to Tim Neighbors, who was the winner at Rockingham earlier this year in IHRA competition, and his opponent is going to be Darrell Alderman from Moorhead, Kentucky.
Alderman is another one of the men who has been coming on. Well, as a matter of fact, both of these guys have been increasing their stock in life in terms of their racing life. They get off the line together, and they're going to go at it tooth and nail right to the final light.
Ooh, boy. Close race, but Darrell Alderman pulls it out with a 188.67, a 747. Neighbors with a 751 in his loss to Darrell Alderman.
Neighbors, as we find out, did red light on that one, Bob. They looked like they were off right together, but Neighbors' reaction time was too quick.
Doug Kirk against Terry Adams in the next round of competition here at Bristol.
Terry Adams down in Junior Johnson country from Wilkesboro, North Carolina.
Earlier this year at Rockingham, Terry Adams lost to Ricky Smith in the quarterfinals. Here's the green light for this run. Far lane, Terry Adams with a slight advantage, but it's close. He wins it, just barely though. 7:53, a 186.72. Let's go to Brett.
With 15 minutes before the second round of Pro Alcohol Funny Car, this is what the chassis of Chuck Phelps' Bad Moon Rising Pontiac Trans Am looks like. No power plant. Chuck, this is one of the closest calls you've ever had to make it between rounds.
Yeah, that's true. We don't have any idea what happened to the motor. She popped about 30 foot before we got to the ET light down there, and we haven't found any problems, so we're just going to have to put a new bullet in.
Well, it's already been a hectic day. Your defeat of Greg Moss, the number 2 points man in the world last year in that last round, was by 1,000th of a second.
I knew it was close because he come around me after I popped the blower. Mine just quit, so he come around me.
Yet your crew doesn't have the time to figure out what was wrong with the other engine.
Yeah, we don't have time to figure that out. We just got to go put a new bullet in and go.
Well, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's hope he can get those repairs made, but we're drawing very, very close to the time he has to be fixed. Here's our next quarterfinal round. It's Gary Hayjack against Ricky Smith.
Both the first and the second qualifiers in this weekend's meet have made it this far. Ricky Smith, Hayjack's opponent in this one, was the fastest qualifier. The last round he went 192 miles an hour. He is on target as he normally is.
Another red light, Larry. Hayjack red lights, and Ricky Smith is going to go to the semifinals.
Bob, sometimes that's not a driver error. Sometimes you feel that's what you have to do. You have to take that calculated risk to knock off an opponent like Ricky Smith. They've got 0.3 of a second once the yellow light first comes on, and sometimes you just have to make a good guess and go for it.
Set to go now, the Hillbilly, Roy Hill against Carlton Phillips, the Taxi Man Trans Am.
Here is the number 2 qualifier of this weekend. That's Roy Hill in the near lane. Roy Hill with a brand new ride in 1987. We've seen him before in his own car. This time he moved over, now driving for another owner.
He made it to the finals in Darlington against Smith. Can he pull this one out? Yes, he does. Hill will move to the semis, defeating Carlton Phillips. It is a 7:43, 187 mile an hour run for Roy.
And just to give you an idea of how significant ETs are compared to miles per hour, Phillips went 190 miles an hour, but he got beat.
They're the semi-final contestants in Pro Stock: Alderman, Adams, Smith, and Hill. So all quarterfinal competition has been completed now. We'll move ahead here at Bristol after this. Campbell Spring Nationals IHRA drag racing, and this is the semi-final round of Nitro Funny Cars. And the opponents in this first round will be Mark Oswald, the defending champion of this division, against Tom Hoover. There you can see Tom Hoover, who defeated Paul Smith in the quarterfinal round, and Mark Oswald, the defending champion of this division, but he's coming into this race this year 4th in the points.
The Big O, the man from the Cincinnati, Ohio area right there, former world champ, against the sweeper, let's call him. Tom Hoover hopes to suck up the Big O on this run.
Oswald in the near lane, Hoover far lane. There's the green light. Oh, and Mark Oswald off to a great start, and he wins easily over Tom Hoover. Oswald with a 260.11, and that is a 577. The Candies and Hughes machine of Mark Oswald will move to the final.
There are times when discretion becomes the better part of the valor for that $70,000 or $80,000 machine. When you're beat, no sense ruining the engine.
Here's the guy that set the speed record with a 270.27 mile an hour run in defeating Steve Hodkinson. Mike Dunn. His opponent is going to be Doc Holliday.
Mike Dunn and the Joe Paisano machine. Paisano, of course, a long time, very successful drag racer. Holliday, He's using one of the older engine configurations in the meet here this weekend at Bristol, but so far it's propelled him into the semis. And he's got a shot here.
Mike Dunn has been a tremendous weekend, and he goes to the finals. Nice run by Dunn again. Not quite as fast as the previous run. 261.62, a 569 for Mike.
As that engine was firing off the 261, almost 262 miles an hour for Dunn, you can see all the horsepower they were getting off the top end as the RPMs went up, so did the speed on Dunn.
So we have our contestants in the finals of Nitro Funny Car. It's going to be Mike Dunn against Mark Oswald. That should be a tremendous show because Oswald is going to be coming back and trying to defend his world championship last year against a very hot guy this weekend, Mike Dunn. Now, semifinal competition in Pro Nitro Dragsters. It's going to be Jerry Marconi, who defeated Gene Snow in the quarterfinal round, against Dan Pastorini, who defeated Bob Strauss earlier.
The former quarterback, Pastorini, of course, against the former drag boat racer, Jerry Marconi. Let's see who can make the best pass. I guess the edge there goes to Pastorini, right?
Yeah. Well, Dan Pastorini's in the near lane.
Dan Pastorini in the course like silver bullet pulls his gun out of his holster and fires off another win. Dan Pastorini moves on.
Running a 5:53, 258. Marconi with trouble right off the line, smoking the tires badly, allowing Pastorini to pick up this win.
Well, he did make it easy on him. Pastorini was able to eke out at 258 miles per hour, 5.5. Really solid on the ETs for Pastorini here this weekend in Bristol. 2 5.5s in a row now.
Getting set now in the semis of Pro Nitro Dragster. It's going to be Michael Brotherton, who's been very successful in IHRA competition this year. And his opponent is going to be Hank Endress, who had an easy run in the quarters when Connie Coletta climbed out of the car without even starting the broken oil line.
Now, we mentioned that Brotherton has been almost visually improving week after week. He was the fastest qualifier this weekend here in Thunder Valley, so that's what Endress is facing.
Brotherton has to be the favorite, but let's see. No, it's Hank Endress who's going to eke it out. Man, was that a close race. Look at this, 565 for Endress in the win and a 564 for Brotherton in a losing cause.
Well, some will say that this is the second car in the Kerry Racing stable, but Endress looks anything but number 2 this weekend here at Bristol. Look how close this is when they cross the line. Wow.
Oh, man, you can hardly...
It took an electric eye to call that one. It could not be called visually.
That is for sure. So in the finals, it'll be Dan Pastorini against Hank Endress, and Pastorini will have the lane choice.
Dan, the machine running with computer-like consistency, 553 at 258, but by the engine covered with oil, it's apparent that you burned at least one piston out of the engine.
We definitely heard something there. It got real hot at the starting line. We got to richen the idle circuit up a little bit, but it ran pretty well. That's the main thing.
So Dan Pastorini may have some trouble as he gets set for the finals. We'll be back. IHRA drag racing. The question is about to be answered. Can Chuck Phelps get that machine repaired? And apparently he cannot, as Bob Newberry is going to have a single run in this round, it appears. There's Newberry with a 218 in the previous round in his defeat of Arnie Karp. And Chuck Phelps, who defeated Greg Moss with a 208.81. However, as we indicated, a lot of work has been going on in the Chuck Phelps pit, and he just cannot make the show.
Newberry, of course, has got to make the run. See the result there. Newberry puttering down the strip. And Bob Newberry easily glides into the final.
That looks like a run that you and I might make at a drag racing event. Our semifinal round next will feature Tommy Johnson Jr., the 18-year-old. He has upset on his mind. His opponent is going to be Richard Bell.
Richard Bell, the Bell Boys Pontiac Trans Am, who got into this round by defeating T.L. Mullins. A pretty good reaction time, down a little bit on miles per hour, but was right up there in the ET. And Tommy Johnson, who's been solid all the way across the board all weekend long.
Wouldn't it be great if this 18-year-old could win here this weekend? He's off to a great start, pulling away from Bell. And Tommy Johnson Jr. is going to go into the finals with a 2:17.644.
It was interesting, Bob. Bell didn't really have tire shake, but the entire car seemed to be bolting and jumping up and down as he was going down the strip. Most unusual run.
It's going to be Bob Newberry against Tommy Johnson Jr. in the finals. And Tommy Johnson, as we indicated, looking for the upset, and he will have the lane choice.
That is looking right up the leg of the Jolly Green Giant, I'll tell you.
Now set to go in the semifinals of Pro Stock. It's going to be Ricky Smith against Darrell Alderman. Darrell Alderman with a 188-mile-an-hour run, defeating Tim Neighbors. And Ricky Smith defeated Gary Hajak when Hajak red-lighted and drove to a smooth 189-mile-an-hour run for that victory. So here's Ricky, the winner at Darlington earlier this year, and the loser to Tim Neighbors in the finals at Rockingham. So Smith has been in the finals in both previous IHR races this year. Here's the green light, and Ricky is pulling away from Darrell Alderman, and Smith is going to get the nod to the finals.
Alderman tried what psych job he felt he had available to him. You saw he was the last card stage of the two of them. The team is very excited despite Smith's success so far this year. They knew that Alderman would be a tough opponent. Alderman tried to make Ricky wait, but it wasn't a long enough wait, apparently.
Here's Terry Adams now, who'll be going against Roy Hill. Adams defeated Carl Kirk with a 186 in the previous round, and Roy Hill, who beat Carlton Phillips.
Roy Hill, who was 3 miles per hour slower than Phillips, but a combination of his ET and his reaction time was what got him here into the semifinals. Roy Hill, the Penny brothers, Thunderbird on the left. There's the Hill. The English is off the line. Hill is coming on. Hill's got a shot. It looks like this is going to go the other way.
It's Terry Adams who pulls out the win. An upset for sure here with a 197.53 for Terry Adams. And he is going to go into the finals. His opponent, and has got a big road to hoe here, as his opponent will be Ricky Smith. Now, Smith has a lane choice, by the way. Now, ESPN and IHRA with a track back, brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer.
Well, the action is always hectic on the International Hot Rod Association quarter mile during national events. It's equally as hectic here in the timing deck of the huge apartment-like timing tower at Bristol International Dragway. It is from this area that the race is actually controlled. Event directors make decisions regarding machines on the racing surface, but this is also the area where the computer age has entered drag racing in a big, big way. The timing involved in every quarter-mile run during this event is all controlled from this area. The actual timers, actuated by the photocells all the way down the quarter mile, relay their information, the car's elapsed time and top end speed, into computer banks. That computer, meanwhile, sends the information down to the finish line area. And after each run down the quarter mile, the racers can pick up a complete printout of not only all the information from their run down the racetrack, but their opponents as well. Each computer printout given to each racer after each quarter-mile run includes both drivers' elapsed times, both drivers' top speeds, the reaction times for both drivers, which is the time it takes for the drivers to leave the starting line after the green light comes on, and the 60-foot elapsed times, which record the first 60 feet of travel for the car in seconds and fractions thereof. Likewise, of course, the drivers find out very quickly if they win or lose. The information is stored here in the tower for use in determining qualifying positions, but regardless, it's an awful lot of machinery that has really speeded up International Hot Rod Association events since their inception.
And another example of how racing has come to the computer age. Next up, the sportsman class. Stay with us. C for the Campbell Spring Nationals. I'm Bob Jenkins along with Larry Newberg. And we're set to go now with the finals of our sportsman category. And the first division will be the stock division. It'll be Bitsy Satterley against Johnny Griffin.
Griffin, a 40-year-old nightclub owner who had only one career victory until today, to beat the lady who red-lighted, the lady from Kentucky.
Johnny Griffith with a 96 14.10 ET. Now in the hot rod division, it's J.M. Dottis against Bobby Hutto.
Now, these cars are very close to the stock divisions, but they are race cars. You see that Hutto won this one, his first ever IHRA national event title.
In the country gold Camaro.
Remember, the breakout time here is 10.9. You say, hey, wait a minute, didn't he break out? Yeah, he did, but Dad is red lighted.
The Super Rod division has Les Ames against Hank Blankenship, and Les Ames has red lighted.
Ames was another of the 3 consecutive red lighters that we had in the sportsman divisions. Blankenship is from Grundy, Virginia, and the breakout time in Super Rod 9.90. He almost hit it right on the nose.
9:94. Our sportsman of the week is Gene Fulton, one of the most proficient engine builders in drag racing, and Brett Kepner is with him right now.
Sportsman championships come hard at every IHRA national championship event, but the man standing next to me is known for one thing. He's the winningest sportsman driver in the entire history of the International Hot Rod Association Championship drag racing circuit. After 15 national event wins and 4 world championships, Gene Fulton is known as one of the best sportsman drivers ever to sit behind the wheel of a manually shifted race car. The one thing that stands out about your driving technique over the last 2 decades is the fact that you drive only with manually shifted transmissions.
Well, that's what I was brought up with, and that really seems like racing. Automatics don't really seem like racing to me.
Have you ever thought, with this incredible win record, of moving up into the pro stock ranks?
Pro stock's totally a different category. It's for professionals that, you know, have backing, don't have to run a business. I have to run a business, and it'd just be about out of the question.
Well, if nothing else, this man is going to continue his winning traditions for many years to come. 4 world championships, still on the winning trail.
And our sportsman of the week, Gene Fulton. Now getting set in the super stock division, former world champion Jerry Jennings against Gene Daugherty.
Jennings running a Fulton engine in this one, turns a 10.882, and he'll win this one. Super stock, these cars are just a step above the stock classification.
In the modified class, machine shop operator Fred White against Carl Harris.
This is one of the older classes of this type of drag racing. It's very popular. Fulton talked about liking the shift as we watch Fred White win. Every one of the cars in this class must have manual transmission.
Now in quick rod, it's going to be Tim Butler against Richard Willard.
There are no engine restrictions as such in quick rod. There is a breakout time of 8.90. You can see that Willard has done it because Butler is another one of the red light victims in the sportsman classification this weekend.
And finally, in our top sportsman class, Bo Moxley will be going against Terry Housley, the 1986 IHRA world champion. And Moxley has red lighted again, Larry.
Housley has already won once in 1987 to mark this one up as win number 2. He even gets across the line quicker than Moxley despite that red light.
172 for Terry Housley. So we're ready for the finals. Pro Alcohol. We'll be right back. Ricky Smith's car being worked on in the pit area, getting set for the Pro Stock Finals. We're ready for the Alcohol Funny Car Finals, and Tommy Johnson Jr. is one of the competitors. Here is Brett Kepner.
Tommy, at 19 years of age, you're up against some seasoned veterans in this class. Is there any ingredient in the Tommy Johnson mail-order missile team that you think gives you an advantage?
My young age gives me better reflexes than the old guys, so I can leave on them most of the time, and then they have to play catch-up. And this weekend, we've got the car running where it should, and I'm out running everybody else, so they're having a hard time catching me on the top end.
Johnson has a big responsibility in going up against Bob Newberry, the points leader in this category.
You know, you've been kind of non-committal since the beginning of the year about a possible world championship chase. How about it? Are you ready to shoot for the whole season in the world title?
Well, this race will be the turning point. I started the year out not with a decision as to whether we would chase the world championship situation, but we've done well up until now. We've won one and we've taken a runner-up. And if we do well here, I think we'll go after it pretty hard.
Well, Larry, if there was ever a David and Goliath story, this is it. We have Bob Newberry, a winner at Darlington earlier this year, against a guy who has just graduated from high school looking for his first win ever.
18-year-old Johnson wiggles, but he stays with it.
He does it. Tommy Johnson Jr. defeats Bob Newberry and wins here at Bristol. And look at the crew's reaction. That's his dad right there.
Bob, look at the miles per hour, 223. Let's see how it reads out, 223.32. You heard the crew mention it, that ties Fred Mandolini's overall world record in this category for speed.
He has got to be a happy young man as we go to the finish line, and Brett Kepner.
Well, here is one happy crew. Tommy Johnson at 19 years old, your first national event win, and here's the kicker. 6:44, but you tied the IHRA world speed record at 223.32 miles an hour. And here's a happy father, Tommy Johnson Sr. What do you have to say about this young man?
I'm out of control.
Great. Bill Cox, the crew chief, expressing his thrills as well. I'm sorry?
This is his fourth national event final. Now he won one.
Oh, it's a tremendous job. Your first ever national event win in one of your very few IHRA appearances, but I think we'll be seeing more of you, huh?
Oh, yeah. I drove it clear out the back door, maybe 50, 30 feet past the lights.
Like I said, you tied the IHRA world speed record, and 43, 44, 44 in the series during eliminations. Unbelievable consistency.
Great. I can't believe it. Oh, this is great. Oh, I'd like to thank Super Winch and Pizza Hut for their sponsorship the last few weeks.
Hey, you know, he rolled this car just about 5 weeks ago.
That's true, coming out of a tremendous crash in Atlanta, Georgia, and what a way to come back. Tremendous job. Congratulations from ESPN.
Thank you.
Bob, the 43-44s that Brett was referring to were 6.43, 6.44. Those were the ETs as Tommy Johnson moved upward, skyward to the victory.
What a story, though. Tommy Johnson defeating Bob Newberry in the final. Now we go to pro stock, and it's going to be Terry Adams against Ricky Smith.
Boy, another situation where you're going after a man who's really difficult to get over. Adams looks across the line and peers at Ricky Smith.
Well, Terry Adams in his first ever final against Ricky Smith, the '86 IHRA world champion. Another David and Goliath story. Can Adams upset Ricky Smith? We'll know in just a few seconds. We go on.
Smith strikes off another one of those great starts that he is famous for, and Terry Adams, he got out of the throttle. He felt that he was beat less than halfway down the quarter mile, and Ricky Smith turns in another 190-mile-per-hour run. This one on the final, 193 miles an hour.
That's the top speed of the meet for Ricky Smith, 193.54. Once again, we go to Brett Kepner.
Well, what started out as just a good year has now turned into complete domination. In 3 events, 2 wins, and 1 runner-up. I might point out that your final round 742 had top speed of the event at 193.54 miles an hour.
It was a good run. I knowed I had him out pretty good off the line, looked like, so I just left it wide open.
He ended up shaking the tires and shutting off.
Did he? Okay. Well, I hate it. Terry's a good competitor. I run him all the time at home, and I'm happy. You can tell that. I got to say thank you, Motorcraft and Ford Motor Company, Sonny's Automotive. A lot of people. You can tell I'm happy. I get excited when I win. You know, I love it.
Meanwhile, the Silver Bullet is loaded in its rifle with Dan Pastorini. He's next in the Nitro Dragster Finals. And there is the Dan Pastorini crew members, or is that Dan? No, I don't think that's Dan.
It's really hard to bear all this sometimes.
Yeah, there is Dan in his Coors Silverlight Bullet and ready to go. Brett Kepner talking with him just a little earlier.
Well, your Coors Light program has worked out much to your benefit. You've done a tremendous job representing that particular sponsor, but there have to be a few connections between the world of professional football and the world of professional drag racing.
Well, there are a lot of connections. It's a team sport, contrary to what a lot of people think. Sometimes people think it's the ability of the driver and the car's performance, but the car's performance is 90% of the battle here. 10% of it's really the driver, and I'm very fortunate to have a good crew in Jim Brissett, Tony Ledford, Rich Guasco, John Wallace, and David Lindsay. They've done a great job maintaining the car and making it perform to its top level all the time. And naturally, we're thankful for Coors Light for coming in and sponsoring us for the next 2 years. It was a little tough running the match race circuit, and for them to come in and help us out has definitely stepped up our program tremendously.
But remember, Pastorini expressed that there may be a problem with that car. We'll see how it goes. His opponent in the final is going to be Hank Indris. There you can see the crew chief is signaling Pastorini to shut it off.
Dan says no.
Dan says no, yeah.
He wants to go for it. He, of course, has the advantage of looking right at all the gauges, but some very anxious moments here. Okay, let's move up to the line. They're headed towards staging, and Pastorini thinks he can still save this. Gives the engine just a little bit of goose, and now the crew is telling him, no, Dan, I don't think we can get this one off.
Well, it's unfortunate for Dan, who had had such a great weekend, defeating Bob Strauss in the quarterfinals and Jerry Marconi in the semifinals, but he's going to have to unbuckle and climb out of that Coors Light Silver Bullet dragster. It's all over for him here at Bristol.
Bob, not only had he had a good weekend, but Dante had also been very consistent. 2 5.5s coming into this run, getting ready to go against Edris, and he's had quicker runs than Hank had had in the finals, but then again, of course, you never know what will happen.
And so Hank Idris gets his first ever win in 30 years of Pro Fuel racing, running at 243.24 miles an hour of 571. We have an in-truck camera as the crowd salutes Dan Pastorini. We have an in-truck camera as it goes to the other end to greet Hank Idris.
This is a big ego booster for this crew, I'm going to tell you. Yeah. Mom and Dad. Hey.
Well, Hank, I know you expected a real battle there, but it ended up a lot easier than you ever dreamed.
Yeah, you know we ran?
571, 243 miles per hour.
I fell off a little bit, but I shut her down a little early because we was by, solo. So.
Well, you've done a tremendous job, as I pointed out earlier, carrying the weight for the Kerry Racing.
These guys worked their hearts out this weekend. I'm not fooling you. It was rugged with 2 cars, and then when we got the 1 car in, they all jumped over, and they did a fantastic job.
It's got to be gratifying after that earlier DNQ for John to come back around and win it for him.
We needed it bad, huh? This one's for John.
Well, we'll see you at the next IHRA National event in Atco, New Jersey.
We'll be there, both of us.
Congratulations from ESPN.
Thank you. Thank you all.
That's Hank Idris, our winner in Nitro Dragsters here at Bristol. Now we're set for the funny car finals, and it's going to be Mike Dunn, who earlier set a new national speed record of 270.27 miles an hour, and his opponent in this round is going to be the Candies and Hughes Motorcraft Thunderbird, driven by Mark Oswald. And of course, one of the owners of this car is Leonard Hughes, and Brett Kepner is down in the pit area to talk with Leonard right now. Brett?
Well, I think fears of possible equipment damage to the Motorcraft Candies and Hughes Thunderbird is certainly unfounded. Leonard Hughes, the crew chief and part owner of this operation, this is a crew chief's dream today. No equipment replacement whatsoever.
Well, we've had the motor backed up so far, we got spinning the tires that we really haven't heard anything yet. We haven't been able to step on it to hurt the motor. So I think if we can get it off the start line, we'll be all right.
You mentioned that you might be moving it up a little bit in the power category for the final.
Yeah, we're going to step on it considerably here now.
Well, we had talked to both Mark Oswald, your driver, of course, and Mike Dunn, and the possibility that this might be the fastest side-by-side ever race in IHRA history. What are your feelings on that?
Could possibly be.
Well, another bit of David and Goliath story here as the veteran Mark Oswald going up against Mike Dunn.
Based on what we've seen, I don't know who is the David and who is the Goliath, though. See what I mean? Dunn's going to win this one.
It's going to be Dunn as Oswald goes up in a big cloud of smoke, and Dunn with a 257.578 has his national title here at Bristol.
Well, it is a little anticlimactic after all those great mile per hours and ETs that Dunn was turning in the preliminaries. It would have been nice to see him match head-to-head with Oswald. Here's another look at it. You see Oswald is getting tire shake and tire smoke right off the line as soon as the Christmas tree flashed green. Mike Dunn was a winner.
Dunn with a 257 in that final round. Let's go to the finish line once again. Here's Brett.
Mike Dunn, both teams talked about hopping it up, as it were, for the final round. It looks like Mark Oswald hopped it up a bit too much. A 578, 257, not the biggest numbers of the day, but enough for the win at the Spring Nationals.
Well, that's all that matters. You know, we're here to get the win, and, you know, we didn't want to hop her up too much, and I had a little bit of driving error on that. I think what reason the 18 mile an hour went down. But I got to give credit to, you know, Joe Paisano and Gary Slusher, Frank Paisano, and Hank Buck, the rest of the crew. They did a heck of a job this week, and I'm just long for the ride.
Well, I think your opposition will be the first to admit that the JP1 put out enough power to do the job.
Yeah, it definitely did. It ran good all weekend.
Well, we congratulate you on your first win, certainly since it comes in your first ever IHRA appearance. We hope to see you again on ESPN.
Yeah, well, we hope to be back. We had a good time. Thank you.
So our racing is complete here at Bristol. In just a moment, we'll review for you the point standings in all 4 major divisions of IHRA. This is a 1987. Ricky Smith leads the Pro Stock Division over Tim Neighbors and Roy Hill. Pro Nitro Dragster being led by Darrell Gwynn over Michael Brotherton and Joe Amato. And in Pro Nitro Funny Cars, Kenny Bernstein has a lead over Mark Oswald and Doc Holliday. Well, we saw some exciting drag racing here in Bristol, Tennessee.